Aloha and welcome to This Is Now. Today, a day of statewide prayer for the victims of the Lahaina disaster. H&N is a partner in the Kipuni Aloha no Maui broadcast of all of the ceremonies.
Now, there are cultural and religious ceremonies being held across the state. The first one was earlier this morning during sunrise. Happening now is the midday service. We want to bring you there live.
Lilio pupuna lua o papaya ho iho ho kukalani ho iho o papa noho ya wakea. Hanau o ahu he moku, hanau o kaua I he moku, hanau o ni ihau he moku, he ula o ka hokola. O wakea noho ya papa hanau moku, hanau o Hawaii he moku, hanau o Maui he moku. Ho iho o wa ke ano hoia ho ho kukalani. Hanau o molokai he moku. Hanau o lana I paula he moku. Lilio pupuna lua o papaya ho ho kukalani. Ho iho o papa noho ya wakea. Hanau o ahu he moku. Hanau o kaua I he moku. Hanau o ni hau he moku. He ula o ka hokola.
And once again, you are listening into a live portion of the statewide prayer vigil. This is an event that is happening with the ceremonies on all major islands. It's bringing together religious and cultural leaders from the community to pray for the victims of the Lahaina wildfire. We're going to bring you more on this a bit later in the show and throughout the day on Hawaii News Now. But in the meantime, we're still awaiting an updated list of people unaccounted for.
Yeah, we're told that will come out later this evening, and the number has significantly dropped. That's according to the governor, who made that announcement yesterday, as the search area is completed. We've also learned the latest identity of the latest victim. Lahaina resident Leroy Wagner was 69 years old. So far, the vast majority of those identified have been 50 or older, and the death toll still stands at 115 lives lost. Police have been able to identify 55 victims so far. Meanwhile, search and survey crews have been in the waters in Lahaina Harbor this past week. This is new video showing military sailors helping local officials comb through the water to recover what they can from below. Maui County officials say all of the Lahaina disaster zone has now been searched. Governor Green says with the search complete, he expects the number of missing people to drop significantly.
Now, as mentioned, that updated missing persons list is expected around 6 p.m. this evening. Governor Green has indicated that efforts have been successful in locating people and reducing the number of names still unaccounted for.
I think we're going to hear a number in the lower double digits tomorrow, hopefully under 50. And it's not much consolation because our hearts are broken that we lost 115 people for sure. But it is something that we are grateful that it's not 800 or 1,000 like people were projecting earlier.
The state and Maui County have launched the Maui Disaster Support Call Center. Their number 808-727-1550 if you need help with wildfire relief. It's designed to connect people with help and resources, including food, social services, and housing options. The daily hours of operation are from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. We're told the services offered will evolve depending on the changing needs of the community. Meanwhile, the state shut down its Joint Information Center as of 5:30 last night. That group was handling some of the information coming out of the disaster zone on Maui, but now authorities are splitting communication responsibilities back up again.
A new FEMA disaster recovery center opens today in Lahaina. A blessing was held for the new location at the Lahaina Civic Center Gymnasium. It'll be open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. People can stop in at the center to register for FEMA assistance, speak in person with FEMA workers, and connect with representatives from the U.S. Small Business Administration and the American Red Cross. In a speech last night, Maui Mayor Richard Bisson tried to quell any controversy over the county's fire response. He tried to explain what he knew and when, but that wasn't enough for critics online. Ben Gutierrez has more.
2 days ago, when Mayor Bisson was asked by reporters where he was the night of the fire, he said, quote, "I don't have that for you." Tonight, in a scripted address from his office, he tried to fill in the blanks.
And I reported to the county's emergency operating center at around 6:30 a.m.
That's 6:30 in the morning of August 8th. Mayor Bisson says he and other county leaders were at the EOC into the night when Lahaina was burning, people were fleeing in the ocean, and first responders were desperately trying to save lives.
As the evening of the first day came, the horrific effects of the wildfire in Lahaina became apparent. At that time, the degree and magnitude was still unknown as the situation unfolded.
That night, Bisson did not communicate directly to the public. He left that to his communications director, who appeared on our late newscast.
It's all hands on deck. We're here in full activation mode at the Emergency Operating Center here in Wailuku tonight.
There were at least 4 other major fires that night. Bisson says he didn't know people had died in Lahaina until the next day.
The realization that we had lost lives was devastating.
Bisson is in his first year of politics after spending 16 years as a circuit court judge. In the wake of the fires, some have called for him to resign. Even after tonight's speech, he continued to get blasted on social media. Bisson said earlier this week he won't step down, and the governor said he won't ask him to. Tonight, he spoke of his family ties to West Maui, and the man, not known for getting emotional, offered this.
And so we grieve along with you. As a son of Maui, with Ohana also affected by this tragedy, I want to assure you that we all champion our community's interests, our historical significance, and our cultural heritage.
Bisson didn't go into complete detail on the day or who was in charge, as then Emergency Management Director Herman Andaya was still on Oahu. He did say there will be a thorough review of what happened and that the county will cooperate. Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
Well, the new leader of Maui's Emergency Management Agency is clarifying when the county will activate its emergency sirens.
Will sound sirens in Maui County for a wildfire evacuation or threat effective immediately. There's always room for improvement with communication, whether it be looking at the latest technology and platforms that can be used, looking at just the content of our messaging, how we can improve on that so that it's very understandable, it's very clear, it's concise.
Daryl Oliveira says he also expects the governor will soon approve new statewide protocols for the outdoor warning system. The former head of MEMA resigned after deciding not to sound the sirens as the Lahaina fire began to spread. The Hawaii Tourism Authority has approved $2.6 million in funding for a new marketing campaign to help visitors know that the rest of Maui is open. This comes as a new economic outlook forecasts a bleak picture for Maui's economy in the long run that could take years to recover from. Our Daryl Huff has more.
Along with the devastation, the deaths, and the displacement of survivors, the fires have severely undermined Maui's visitor economy, and UH economic, political, and social experts say it will take a long time to recover. Outside the burn zone, the fire's impact is on jobs. As visitor arrivals dropped about 75%, even open hotels shed workers. among them Jonathan Silva, a counselor at the destroyed Kamehameha III Elementary School, who also worked at 3 hotels to afford the mortgage on his home in Wailuku.
And I hustled as hard as I did so that we're able to survive these next 2 months. But if this goes much longer and without government aid for people in my boat, then we're going to lose a lot of families.
The University of Hawaii Economic Research Organization says the Lahaina fire destroyed 1,500 rooms. It had served 4,000 visitors who spent about $70 million a month and supported 8,500 workers. Even though they predict visitors to South Maui, like Kihei and Wailea, will bounce back by Thanksgiving, that's only about half of the industry. West Maui above Lahaina will lag well behind.
We are making assumptions in our forecast work that it will happen in 2024, and that you still have a multi-year process to get visitors back in overall, and many years before we get back to full sort of previous visitor levels and spending.
It's a picture of an economy on a precipice, still dependent on tourists, who Silva says will be welcomed back.
So just be sensitive and try to support as many local businesses as you can. If you don't come, then people are just going to go out of business, and more people are going to lose their jobs, and it's going to spiral out of control.
In prior disasters, the rebuilding began immediately and provided an economic boost. But Lahaina's restoration can't happen until the community somehow overcomes huge cultural and commercial differences to plan the new Lahaina.
I mean, this isn't something that can be solved through voting or elections. I mean, these are deep, complex questions that are going to require, I think, professional facilitators and others to convene these forums to really understand what it is the community wants.
The only immediate buffer to the tourism downturn, other than more visitors, is the amount of federal aid, insurance, and charitable support coming in. But Yujiro says so far, it's not nearly enough. Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
Lahaina's historic banyan tree is showing no signs of growth above ground, but underground there is hope. Arborists who have been caring for the burned landmark say root samples show new shoots emerging, and they say the tree's lower trunks still have tissue under the bark.
To me, it's a symbol of hope, and tree has a lot of layers of symbolization, I guess the word is. But we're taking it to heart to try to bring back the tree to give some hope to Lahaina.
The 150-year-old tree has been getting daily waterings and nutrients. Sensors will be installed today to measure its growth rate. The banyan tree, of course, is world famous and has served as a symbol of hope during these difficult times.
And we have a traffic alert we want to pass along for Oahu. There will be road closures from 2 to 2:30 this afternoon in the Nu'uanu and downtown area and in front of HPD. This is for the motorcade and final salute for former police chief Lee Donahue, who passed away back in July. Donahue served as chief from 1998 to 2004, part of a 40-year career with HPD.
An impressive career indeed. Our Guy Hoggy will have more on this weather forecast after this quick break.
you can see there's no significant rainfall, and whatever rain comes in will favor those windward sides, and will be of the light variety. If there were to be heavy, we'd see yellows and we'd see oranges, but we don't still see any of that. So light rain, if anything. And also, we're going to get significant surf starting Tuesday, Wednesday. A big swell is going to be moving into the South Shore, so heads up on that. Get ready for that. Prepare for that. So we got breezy trade winds today, and the red flag warning has been tossed out. That's the best news ever. Still, though, it's still dry out there for the most part, although it's wet this morning. Overall, it's very dry, and those dry conditions will continue going into the weekend. And notice the winds starting to slow down, and they'll be much slower by Sunday, even slower with more humid conditions on Monday and Tuesday, and there's a chance for some afternoon pop-up showers the early part of next week.
Thank you so much for that forecast, Guy. In news overnight, a 71-year-old man was hospitalized in critical condition following a crash on the Pali Highway. HPD says he drifted into a raised concrete shoulder at around 7 o'clock near Powell Road. Police say he was not wearing a helmet, and they do not believe speed, drugs, or alcohol played a role. And announced yesterday, nearly 400 vice principals at Hawaii's public schools could be getting a 20% pay raise under a new contract. The DOE and Hawaii Government Employees Association announced a tentative deal that would boost salaries from nearly $97,000 to $116,000 a year. Educational assistants would also get an 8% bump over 2 years. That would bring their salaries to just over $40,000 a year. A date for the ratification vote has not yet been set.
As final preparations are being made to begin defueling the Red Hill tanks, Island Energy Services commissioned a new fuel storage facility that the military will use in Kapolei. Jolani Martinez takes us there.
These are 2 out of the 5 fuel tanks built in the last 10 months here at Island Energy Services Kapolei Terminal. Altogether, the tanks can hold up to 1.2 million barrels of fuel. In fact, some of the fuel from Red Hill will be stored here.
Now we blend with the military to get that fuel down here safely.
A blessing for the tanks Island Energy Services began building in October. 4 stand 64 feet. The 5th is 56 feet tall. They've also made modifications to existing facilities, providing storage for a total of 1.5 million barrels of fuel. A project of this scale typically takes over 2 years to construct. CEO says they completed it in 10 months.
We used our in-house resources, our engineering, our maintenance, our operations team, and put together a plan that we felt we could execute. It was the benefit of our own experience, but we also brought on a number of local contractors.
The city was involved in the permitting process and also treated water flushed out from the facilities that needed repairs. Today, they proclaimed August 31st Island Energy Services Day.
The city is a large consumer of fuel and energy as well, so that supply and being available in emergencies and when there's power outages is really critical to our operations.
The storage was created at the request of the Defense Logistics Agency. It all cost $170 million.
Thank you. Mahalo. Coming and doing this project this fast was not easy, but it was necessary. But it was done safely, expeditiously, and it enables our national security.
To be able to find an adequate and secure and safe and reliable alternative to Red Hill was extremely important, and especially since there is such critical national security needs that are supplied through this jet fuel and the other fuels to be stored here. So we were very pleased that there was a solution that came forth really rapidly.
Island Energy Services stores different kinds of fuel. The CEO says the transfer of any fuels will be done safely.
So we feel, it's never without lack of enough effort and oversight to make sure everything goes well. And we've got a very experienced team that's capable of providing these services.
Jolani Martinez, Hawaii News Now.
In news across the nation, 4 more of former President Trump's co-defendants in the Georgia election interference case have pleaded not guilty. Along with entering their plea Friday, Mike Roman, Harrison Floyd, and Scott Hall also waived their right for an in-person arraignment hearing in Atlanta next week. Roman is a former Trump campaign official and is charged with 7 crimes, mostly in connection with his role in the fake electors plot. Floyd is also facing multiple charges, including intimidation of an Atlanta election worker. He was also the only co-defendant to be jailed as he awaited bond arrangements. And Hall is facing 7 charges, including 2 counts of conspiracy to commit election fraud in connection with the breach of voting systems in Coffee County. Pro-Trump lawyer Robert Shalay also entered a not guilty plea Friday. That means 10 of the 19 defendants have now pleaded not guilty, including former President Trump himself.
A member of the Proud Boys was sentenced to 10 years in prison for his role in the January 6th attack. Prosecutors say Dominic Pezzola broke a window at the U.S. Capitol, allowing a wave of rioters to storm the building. He's convicted of assaulting or resisting a police officer and stealing a police shield. That's in addition to destruction of government property and obstructing an official proceeding. He's the only one of 5 Proud Boys charged with seditious conspiracy to be acquitted of that count. Pezzola says he's a lower-level member of the Proud Boys and claims he followed orders and acted in self-defense on January 6th.
Well, another holiday weekend means more people will be traveling, and if you are expected to hit the skies, be prepared yet again for some delays and possible headaches. Los Angeles International Airport alone expects more than 1 million travelers this long weekend. For more on that, here's Chris Van Cleve.
Blake Sosa and his wife Ashley are heading to Japan for their honeymoon, getting an early start on Labor Day weekend at Chicago's O'Hare Airport as the busiest summer travel season on record comes to a close.
We just really looked at flights, and today worked out better for our schedule and really cost, and it definitely helps to beat the Labor Day rush.
The TSA has screened more than 227 million passengers since Memorial Day weekend, surpassing pre-pandemic records, and the agency expects to see another 14 million more by Tuesday.
It could just be a holdover from a lot of folks not traveling over the past few years due to COVID, and they've got that international travel bug, and they've decided I'm going to do it this year. Because being up 44%, that's pretty noticeable.
The nearly 150 million people traveling over Labor Day will face gas prices averaging about $3.82 a gallon. While it's nearly the same as last year, AAA says it's higher than normal for the holiday. Baba Javier is driving from Los Angeles to Arizona.
I'm not going to let the gas prices affect what we do right now. It does hurt, not going to lie.
Despite a series of storms wreaking havoc around July 4th, summer 2023 saw a 21% drop in cancellations, even with an increase in flights. Still, 1 in 4 left late this summer, up from last year.
Labor Day weekend, are you concerned about where things stand?
Well, we're always concerned because we know we're just one unexpected event, glitch, or storm away from there being some real issues.
But Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says improving staffing and airlines cutting some summer flights created a buffer against disruptions.
This summer was a test of the recovery of our aviation system, and the results have been remarkable.
As cliche as it is, pack your patience. Going back to the Maui wildfires now, we've seen so much outpouring of aloha from across the nation, including one business in Maryland. Jennifer Franciotti has their story.
We are the leading authority on postcards. So if people have a question about postcards, they come to us.
With close to 6 million postcards, Mary Martin's Vintage Postcards and Bayside Antiques in Havre de Grace offers collectors and amateurs alike a chance to step back in time.
It's a tangible item from the past. It's a piece of history.
They were like the emails from, 50, 100 years ago. In some towns, you could actually get the reply in the same day.
Today, Mary runs the business with her son, Joe, but it was started more than 50 years ago by her parents. And since then, they have amassed a collection that dates back to the 1800s with customers around the globe. And this month, they're hosting an online auction to raise money for the fire victims in Maui by selling postcards from the island, some depicting Lahaina as it was for hundreds of years before the fire.
As we sorted some of the postcards that were from the 50s, 60s, and 70s with messages that were mailed to the state. And this one was sent to Charles Street. This is, "Hi Cecilia, I'm sure having a great time. I'm doing something all the time. I don't miss you at all." You have to think about this. If you were in Kansas in 1905 and someone sent you a postcard, you couldn't turn the television on and see what Maui looked like.
Maui is special to Mary. She was married there, and it's where they have spent many a family vacation. And so they are doing their part to help the community thousands of miles away.
It's not like other places where there's a disaster. You have all your surrounding states that they all can come help. There, you're on your own, but you're not. You know, you're still U.S. we care about you, and we'll try to help any way we can.
The online auction runs through September 16th, and for a chance to win your piece of history, you can just visit that website on our screen right now to enter.
Yeah, merylmartin.com. Awesome to see the old images there.
Absolutely. Well, we want to take you back live out now to the Kipuni Aloha no Maui service. This is the midday service at Waihao Church. Let's listen in. Thank you for watching. This is now.
Upon them and of all of us, so that we may rebuild this community with hope, with peace, and even with joy. We pray this through Christ our Lord.